Exciting, thrilling, awesome. Let's take a look.
What's up, Met fans? Welcome back to Talking Mets It Rob on another day 2 Correa Watch live right here on Talking Mets It Rob. How is everybody doing today? Yet again on this Tuesday morning, December 27th, and we still have no resolution on the Correa situation, but we do have a little bit of information because if you really think about it, guys, today is like the official back to day work. The MLB offices was closed. The MLB PA offices was closed on Monday. So whatever paperwork or contract that they might have agreed upon can't just go into an office and be sent to the offices of MLB and MLBPA to get approved. And I do think that's more of what's going on right now. And we are actually going to talk about what John Morosi said on MLB Hot Stove about 10 minutes ago regarding the deal. And also Steve Phillips also talked on MLB Hot Stove regarding this situation with the Mets and Correa. So the latest that we heard yesterday was that there was a 55% chance that this deal gets done. I don't know who came up with that number. According to John Heyman and the sources that he has, again, we know John Heyman screwed up with Arson Judge, but he also is very much in the know with Scott Boras and with Steve Cohen. For some reason, Boras and Steve Cohen for some reason, they like to give any type of report, any type of news to John Heyman, because it was Steve Cohen that gave this news to John Heyman the break early in the morning last week. So it's important to realize that even if the contract, we start thinking about different types of contracts, are the Mets going to want less years, less money? Well, we've heard now that, according to sources, that Carlos Correa doesn't want to move from those 12 years, $350 million. And even though yesterday I was like, I think we should go 8 years and average annual value of $30 million a year or around that. And that's something that I thought could have happened. But what you continue to hear is that the Mets just want to change language in the contract, basically protecting themselves. If that leg injury becomes a problem during his contract, the Mets will be protected financially, and they'll be protected from a situation where if this player can't play because of the leg or miss a certain amount of games, there's a possibility that there could be an opt-out clause from the team as well. Again, it's not easy to get those deals done because of the fact that the MLBPA probably don't like those type of deals and clauses, but this happens more times than we actually know of in Major League Baseball, right? I told you yesterday about JD Martinez and the Red Sox. The Red Sox were concerned about his foot in 2018 when they were going to sign him. The deal wasn't the issue. The $100 million deal that Martinez signed wasn't the issue. The issue was the Red Sox wanted protection just in case he hurt that specific foot, and they wanted protection for themselves and their organization. So and that was a Boras client as well. So it's not like Boras hasn't done this before. I know most of you probably read the John Heyman New York Post report that said that the restructuring of a deal is not something, renegotiating of a deal is not something of Boras's liking, but that's wrong because of the fact that Boras doesn't like to renegotiate a contract that has nothing to do with a medical. He's done it before with stipulations and language in a contract. What he doesn't like to renegotiate is the money aspect and the year aspect. That's what he doesn't. So if a team gets cold feet about the money and the years, just because of the money and the years, Boras is like, no, we're not doing that. But because this is a situation where Correa wants the Mets want Correa, I still believe that if a guy hasn't had any stints on the IL because of this ankle injury, and it's been widely known that his back has been a concern over the years. So here we go, guys. Hold on. Here we go. We got some news, guys. What is going on? There we go. We don't got nothing with Correa, but Adam Ottavino is official. And again, if you notice, you're going to hear a couple of things that are official, right? Today, because the MLB offices, the MLBP offices is open. So paperwork can be flooding through the offices of both of those respective organizations. And the Ottavino deal just became official. So yes, that's not the official we want from, but obviously you see that things are going in motion. There's everything's back to normal again. Everything is open. Sorry guys, I'm just checking something. Walter, you can just DM me on this. Give me a second, guys. TMWR. That's my Twitter handle, so you can just DM me on that. I know, yeah, Joe got my hopes up too. Damn it, Joe. You didn't even say end the lockout, did you? If you did, then I apologize. So, once again, guys, it is more important to realize the fact that John Heyman put about Boris not renegotiating contracts. That's true on the financial and years perspective, not on a possibility of, listen, at the end of the day, Correa failed his physical with the Giants and the Mets, right? It's a failed physical. So it's not like if this deal falls apart, another team's not going to have the same issue. It's going to keep on going, and the deal's going to get smaller and smaller and smaller until Correa is just going to have to make a decision. And in my opinion, I think he really does want to be a Met, and I think he'll do everything he can to get this deal done. But what the Mets can't do, and this is the Mets, the ball's in the Mets court now, because you cannot wait and prolong this renegotiation with Correa and with Boris when you are going to have a hole in your lineup if this deal does not go through. Because you can't wait until Wednesday or Thursday or Friday and all of a sudden the deal breaks off. And now what if Mancini signs with another team and Duvall signs with another team? Well, now the Mets are basically holding the bag with nothing. And now they do have to go on the trade route, because there is no way Steve Cohen is going to bring back this lineup by itself without Correa or without any added bat, and already knows that the $1 million that were spent on single season tickets once the Correa deal was agreed upon. So he has to do something. If that's a trade for Devers, if that's a trade for somebody else, or they try hard to get Ohtani and force the Angels to trade him, or some craziness like that, they can't let that happen. They have to put their foot down at some point. Correa is a really good player. Let's not take that away from him. He's a very good player. He's an all-star caliber player, but you can't get handcuffed by Boris and by Correa. And let's be honest, guys, Boris does not want to piss off Steve Cohen. Because if Steve Cohen gets pissed off with Boris, Boris has one less team to go to that has money with his free agents going into the future. So that's something that Boris don't want to mess with. And of course, Steve Cohen doesn't want to have because clearly Boris had Steve Cohen's number, had no problem texting him when the Giants deal was going to go by the wayside. So that's something that you have to look at as well. But at the moment, John Morosi said, and I will repeat what he said on MLB on Hot Stove about 15 minutes ago. On MLB Hot Stove, John Morosi said the key thing to know right now is there is still active talking with Correa, Boris, and the Mets, which is much different than what happened with the Giants. That's a good sign. And also Steve Phillips, former Mets GM, says he really does believe, he's very confident that the deal will get done. And he also said the Mets are going to put language in the deal. More than likely, he says it's still going to be that same 12 years, $315 million. Again, if there's protection for the Mets on a long-term deal, the money is irrelevant. The years are irrelevant. It really does. Look, will we prefer less than 10 years? Absolutely. It makes more sense. But it's stupid for the Mets to lose out on the guy they wanted. And Cohen put it in the papers. He put it in his interview with John Heyman. He said it. This was the missing piece we needed. You can't say that and then this deal falls apart, and then what happens then? Right? So Cohen is backs against the wall, just like Correa's back is against the wall, because if this deal does not go through, there's a pretty good chance there's not another team that's going to give him the same amount of years and the same amount of money. It's probably going to be well below $300 million, and that's going to be less than probably 8 years, probably, because no other team is going to pay that much for a guy who failed 2 physicals within a couple of weeks. It's just not going to happen. And Correa knows that. And again, it comes back to, yes, Correa wants to be a Met, And I think that's why there's still negotiations here and whatever else is going on. Again, all indications are this deal is going to be the deal that we heard of the $315 for 12 years. So we just have to look. I already said this yesterday multiple times on both streams yesterday. I said the money and the years are irrelevant for every big free agent that signs a long-term deal. That goes for Turner, Bogarts, Lindor, Correa. It doesn't matter. Swanson, it really doesn't matter. If they provide you more, at least half or a little bit more than half of the contract where they are the player you expect them to be, and you can maybe trickle in, even if you don't win a World Series, you can't always put it on just one player because it's a team effort as always. But if he gives you, say if he does have the 12-year deal, but he gives you 6 or 7 really good years like you expect Correa to give out of the 12, you got to remember, guys, we have the DH now. So if he's not the same player for like he was playing third base and a little bit not as quick on his feet as he is now in his prime, you can throw him in the DH. Maybe he can still hit you 20 home runs. His reaction speed might be still there with his bat, right? Even if he gives you 6 or 7 years out of 12, name me a contract, long-term contract that was even remotely close to being the same player after year 7 until the contract ends. Right? We've seen it time and time again. Albert Pujols, Robinson Cano, even with steroids, he broke down. Right? I mean, you can just keep on going. Every team has that type of situation. The Mets gave David Wright a long-term deal. Injury precluded him to finish up the deal. Right? It wasn't a huge long-term deal, but it was one of the biggest in history at the time. Right? You can look at every excuse me. You can look at every team and find or most teams find a long-term deal that by year 7 of a long-term deal, if it's like 8 years, 9 years, 10 years or more, and you're going to see this. Look, the Trey Turner contract, no doubt that's a great move for Philadelphia Phillies. They needed more of a contact guy, a better leadoff hitter with speed to get on base. And that's something that is going to happen. Right? That's what you expect from him. And then you have now where Trey Turner, everything is on his is basically revolves around his leg. His game revolves around his leg. Right? His legs. How he's 30 years old? In 4 or 5 years, you think he's gonna have that same speed, that same quick motion in the hole, being a shortstop? No, it's going to break down. And that's the majority of his game right there is his legs. You know, beating a lot of ground balls that he probably can't beat at the age of 34 or 35. You don't think 7 more years of that contract is going to make any difference? Of course it is. All right, guys. So let's see what's going on over here. Well, David, I agree with that about Billy Epler. But also, Billy Epler, and, you know, I can assure you almost every Mets fan wants Ohtani. You know, as much as people want to shit on Billy Epler was the guy who got Hideki Matsui when he was the assistant GM under Brian Cashman with the Yankees, right? He got Hideki Matsui when everybody thought that he was either going to go to Seattle or the Giants because of Ichiro with Seattle Mariners. And then nobody cared about Billy Epler. Remember, Cashman got all the credit. But look back on the stories, guys. Look back on the stories when it came to Hideki Matsui. Billy Epler was the guy. People don't want to give Billy Epler credit at that time because of the fact that Cashman is the quote-unquote guy, the GM, that, you know, is in front of the press conferences, is the face of it, right? So Billy Epler was that guy. Then you look into the Ohtani situation. Remember, the Yankees offered Ohtani more money and more years to come to New York. Ohtani didn't do it. Don't think for a second that wasn't Billy Epler talking about with Ohtani, because remember, Cashman didn't go to Japan. Billy Epler went to Japan when he was with the Angels, spoke to Ohtani, met his family, made him comfortable with him. And Ohtani, I guarantee you, Epler was like, listen, Shohei, listen, you're in California, you're closer to home. You're further away from home from New York. You're going to get the big market. You're going to get paid. You're going to get better weather. And basically, remember, this is before Shohei Ohtani proved that he can be a major leaguer. Because, I don't care how good you are. When you can't translate to Major League Baseball, your ass is getting shipped back to Japan probably right after your contract. So in this situation, Shohei Ohtani didn't know yet. He was confident in his ability, but you just never know until you actually do it. And now a couple of years later, when he knows he can do it, he's a star in the league. Maybe that doesn't mean as much to him anymore because now he knows he's very much set in Major League Baseball, and maybe he does want to come to New York. And I said this yesterday. Don't not pay attention to the Los Angeles Dodgers and what they are doing. They're getting their payroll under $200 million because they're going to go very hard after Shohei Ohtani after this season. No doubt about it. That's their plan. You can tell. And if that's their plan, they're probably going to go after Rafael Devers as well. You have over a $200 million payroll, have one of the top payrolls in all of baseball for a couple of years now before Steve Cohen rode up, and you win one championship in 2020, and now all of a sudden they don't make any big signings. That's not the Dodgers. So you can clearly see what they're doing. They are setting up for the next offseason. No doubt about it. With Devers being probably going to be a free agent, doesn't look like he's going to sign with the Red Sox, and Ohtani's not signing the deal with the Angels. So you got two guys that a team like the Dodgers, who wouldn't want Devers? Who wouldn't want Ohtani, right? So you got to watch out for those teams as well. So in that situation, the people want to shit on Billy Epler. He got Senga here, right? Why wouldn't Senga go to the West Coast, right? Billy Epler has good relationships with these Japanese players. He knows a lot of these people in Japan. That's a big deal. And I can assure you, he already has a nice relationship with Shohei Ohtani. So don't think for a second, if Shohei Ohtani is willing to come to New York, he ain't going to the Yankees. Number one, the Mets can pay him more, right? If the Yankees wanted to spend more money, they could have got the other bat they needed in that lineup in free agency instead of trying to beg a trade for the Pittsburgh Pirates and Brian Reynolds. All right, let's go. What else we got here, guys? How you doing? Yeah, I don't think that's happening either. Devers to the New York Yankees. Again, I don't think the Yankees payroll is going to be extremely high once again. Yeah, they're going to have Donaldson's money coming up and everything like that. No, you see, John, I did not say Epler did a good job last year. I continue to say over and over again that Billy Epler failed at the trade deadline last year. But that doesn't mean that he hasn't been excellent in the international market, specifically in the Japanese market. That's two different things. Again, guys got to listen. You got to listen. Yeah, so, again, are the Yankees, are they going to have a third baseman after next year? Well, if they're going to keep Volpe and Peraza, yeah, you can put them at short and second. But it really doesn't matter, right? It depends. Are they going to spend $350 million, another $300 million contract? Remember, your boy Hal Steinbrenner already says he don't think a team needs to go over $300 million to win a championship. You're at 285 now. And even with a couple of contracts coming off the books, you sign Devers, your contract, your payroll is going to be over $300 million because you got to retain some people as well. All right. I don't remember any recent Mets GM making any solid trades in favor of the Mets. And it doesn't really matter if the Pirates GM is friends with Cashman because the deal would have got done already. Again, do you guys read your own team's reports? And rumors? There's been multiple reports saying the Pittsburgh Pirates want top pitching prospects. The Yankees don't have none in their system, at least that are ready to come up or just about to come up. The Yankees used a lot of them last year. And they're not trading them because if they trade them, you're going to lose half your bullpen. You guys got to pay attention to that. It's not rocket science, guys. It's common sense. I'm telling you right now, if Volpe is not in this deal, the deal's not happening. I'm telling you that right now because the Yankees don't have enough pitching prospects. And there's other teams on Brian Reynolds that could actually use Brian Reynolds as well that has pitching prospects that has better prospects than the Yankees. All right, let's see what else we got. What else do we got on the Twitter sphere? Let's see. All right, let's see. All right, so that's where we are right now. Danny, there's 3 teams that spoke, that checked in. Again, checked in is not trying to move in on Correa. Checked in. They wanted to know what's going on. And I can assure you, with Boris as the agent, if there was a slight chance this deal was on the verge of breaking down, Boris would have leaked out every information that was needed to get more teams involved. Again, Correa wants to be a Met, right? And again, I don't see now. Can I see the Twins coming back on into him? Absolutely, because they had him last year. I mean, the Twins losing Correa, that's going to hurt them. Why wouldn't they want them back? And I can see the Twins rolling up on them and saying, all right, we already offered a 10-year, $300 million deal. Like, you take that, we'll close our eyes doing the physical. So, and again, there's no indication that it's actually breaking down at all, right? All we've heard is a lot of speculation with reports, especially yesterday when everybody thought this deal was going to get done. But then looking a little further into it, I'm a little nuts like this, right? I'm like, wait a second, are the MLB offices open today? Because you didn't hear nothing official yesterday, right? There was a little something official with the Braves, but I think it was like a minor league guy or a minor league deal. But with that deal was agreed upon on Saturday, on Christmas Eve. Excuse me, on Sunday, or I'm sorry, Saturday. I think it was Friday, or I think it was Thursday or Friday, and that was already sent to the offices, according to the reports that were on the website from MLB.com and other places like that. Because I wanted to check. I'm like, wow, there was a deal that was approved, but that was prior to the weekend before the holidays. So, and then you saw right away Adam Ottavino at 11 a.m. got approved already. So that means everything's up and running on the offices of MLBP and Major League Baseball. So if this deal's going to happen, it's probably going to happen rather quickly. Juan, how you doing? Thank you for the super chat, buddy. Mets will probably get Correa for less years or AAV. Oh, and by the way, last time Boston traded with the Yankees, it didn't turn out so good. Well, yeah, but I see it this way, right? It's not about what the Yankees or the Mets or the Red Sox or anybody basically can do, because if a team really wants to get the player they want, you can give up your prospects. But it comes down to, you got to remember, guys, and this goes to the same thing for the Mets as well. They're not shying away from this situation, because I am on them with that too. The Yankees and the Mets are one of the oldest teams in the league. And yes, the Mets are number 1. I think the Yankees are number 3, right? They got some older guys on that team as well. So they can't afford, just like the Mets can't afford, to trade their farm system, especially the guys that could be coming up within this year and next year. And if you give them up, if the Yankees give up, say, Volpe, Dominguez, and another top 10 prospect for Reynolds, well, those couple that you could have had coming up this year and next year, well, now they're gone. Yeah, you get Brian Reynolds, but that doesn't make you right away a championship team. You want to get that young blood in there, because let's be honest, the only young blood they really have, Gonzalez is a utility guy that I like, but he's not a star that's probably going to make the difference of the Yankees winning the championship or not. Right? He's not. He's good, but he's not that good. He's a perfect utility player. He can play anywhere on the field. He brings that energy. But we'll see. Well, Devers, Arenado opted into his contract, so that's over with. Machado is going to opt out. You know him. He's probably going to have a big year. But again, Machado is going to be 3 or 4 years older than Carlos Correa. Right? So if Machado is going to opt out, you don't think he's going to want an 8-9 year deal? Of course he is. So you're getting an older guy for almost the same amount of length than you got a guy that's 28 years old. And the physical is an issue. But again, guys, you have to pay attention to what's going on. Carlos Correa never been on the IL with that specific injury. Other injuries, yes. But the IL on that specific foot injury or ankle injury, that hasn't been the case. And that's the important thing to look at. Last year, he did slide. The knee with the second baseman did collide directly on the plate of his leg. And he said, if you read the report that he said, remember, he got taken out of the game that day, but the next day he was back in the lineup and he had no issues. He said that he felt the vibration and a tingling feeling where his leg was numb for about 10 minutes. So it's something where if you have a metal plate and bone, of course it's going to rock your core for sure. You're going to feel it. But it's not like there was an injury that caused it. Putting a steel plate in any part of your bone makes that area stronger. It's not like he's going to break his ankle unless he really does something crazy, like slide in to make a catch and his foot jams against the wall or something like that. Maybe something like that. But there's no guarantee of that. But definitely, it hasn't been a problem at the major league level. After he got the surgery, he put the plate in. He has not had an issue with that. The back, his upper legs, a hamstring, which most players have. So it's not something that is abnormal because his back has not become an issue on any of the two physicals that were done by the Giants and the Mets. So it's not the back. The back is, according to the doctors, are fine. It's just a matter of what will the Mets put. I think this deal is going to get done. If it is 12 years, $350 million, the Mets are going to protect themselves, just like the Red Sox did with JD Martinez and a lot of other teams and a lot of other players that done contracts before that we haven't even talked about, that are probably not even known in the contract, probably have language based on specific injuries. It happens more than enough times. We just don't hear of every one of them, right? This has been more of a high profile situation because he basically failed the physical with the Giants. Giants didn't really, they were taking their time. Boris says, "Hey, Steve, let's go." And then it happened the same thing over here as well. So this is more of a high profile situation. JD Martinez, it seemed like the Red Sox wanted him and they were going to do whatever they had to do to get it done. And I think this is the same situation here with the Mets and Boris and Correa. All right, let's go. What else we got? Rob, every fan of their team thinks the other team wants their guy in return. True. And again, if you're a Yankees fan, right? And I know some of you guys are, name me a player. And I'm not saying that's like an okay player. Name me a player that was top prospect in the top 10 of the Yankees farm system that was traded in deals over the last couple of years and turned out to be anything, right? You don't think teams are starting to realize that, right? The Yankees, more than any other team, hypes up their prospects like no other. Like Gary Sanchez is basically hanging on in the majors with the Twins, and he's a free agent right now. You haven't heard a word about him. Right? Torres looks like he could be on his way out. And right now he's still on the Yankees, but he's not the player that he was in 2019. We can go on and on. Miguel Andujar hanging on by a thread with the Pittsburgh Pirates. Clint Frazier is nowhere to be found. Right? There's so many players you can look at over the last couple of years. And don't think for a second that teams don't realize that. And look what the Yankees traded for Montas. Right? There's a pretty good chance that nothing's really going to work out on that end either, because it's been a trend. And, I think Volpe is going to be I think he's going to be a really good major league player. I never want to say anybody's a star because, Volpe hasn't been brought up like a Mike Trout or a Juan Soto or a Bryce Harper or a Manny Machado, right? There's still questions about Volpe. I think he's going to be very good. I've seen him a couple of times in the minors. The kid got power. He's very good defensively. He's not better than Peraza, but he's pretty good. Well, you see, the Yankee fans now are, it's a different type of situation now because they got a team in their, they got the Mets now spending a lot more money. And again, that means absolutely nothing. I want to make that clear. Spending all this money means absolutely nothing, right? There's many Mets fans that killed Yankees year after year. But let's be honest. The one time the Yankees actually basically, quote unquote, bought a championship was not making the playoffs in 2008. In that offseason, getting Burnett, Sabathia, and Teixeira, and they won in 2009. So they bought it in that situation, but it's stupid to say that they did at all, because after the 2000 season, they won nothing except for 2009. So they spent a ton of money. I mean, we can go through the names. We did it again, right? But the Yankee dynasty in the late 90s and early 2000s, it was mostly the core. Yeah, they supplemented with trades and a couple of signings here and there, but their core four, as they've been known, were the big reason why the Yankees won. It wasn't, yes, the Scott Brosius of the world, the Paul O'Neill, Tino Martinez, they weren't homegrown, right? They were big parts of the championships, right? So that's how I think it should be. But it's okay. Listen, at the end of the day, every fan base should want an owner that spends money. I mean, haven't you heard the Yankees fans over the last couple of years bitching and moaning that Hal wasn't spending? But now all of a sudden they're getting on the Mets fans. Makes no sense, because you were just bitching and moaning for years that the Yankees weren't spending money. So you can't be a hypocrite in that situation, because I don't care if any owner spends money. Listen, I'm happy that they do. I mean, not because it's not my team, but hell no. Why am I going to say, oh, look at the Yankees spending. Look what the Padres doing all this money. No. It's not. I don't like that at all, because if I see an owner spending money, at least the owner is trying something. Not saying that works or that's the recipe for success. You got to work in some younger guys and prospects and stuff, but still. And that's a good point, Muted. The reason why, and I think people, if you listen to what Cohen said and Epler said over the last couple of years, what did they say? They want to build a sustainable winner, and they want to build up their farm system. You can't build up your farm system if you start trading them away, right? So you have to spend the money to replace your team. And remember, guys, the Mets had the most free agents from their own team amongst any other team. And most of their free agents were core players on their team. 3 bullpen arms, 4 starting pitchers, 1 position player. That's a lot of players. A lot of players. So, I mean, what are you supposed to do? And I said this over and over again when people are bitching and moaning that Cohen spending all this money. If Cohen brought back every player that was a free agent on this team this year that were on the Mets last year, their payroll would have been just as high, maybe a little less, but just as high, because not signing DeGrom got them Verlander, Sanger, and Quintana for the same amount of money. So, and people were like, "Oh, that's risky spending right there." Well, no, because they got 3. You brought in a Cy Young, yes, older. You brought in Quintana, who is a workhorse, who pitches 30 games every year. He's not the greatest pitcher in the world, but he's going to be your number 4, right? So you're looking for innings from the guys in the back of your rotation. You're looking for innings. And it only makes sense that the Mets had to spend money to replace those players. You can't make trades to replace every single player that you lost, right? The Mets lost Ottavino, May, and Lugo in free agency until they brought back Ottavino. They have to replace those guys. You can't just trade everybody, because 1, you hurt your farm system. 2, you're not trading guys off your major league roster, because that's hurting your team, because you got to add to that. And look, the Mets, if you're not paying attention to what they did, they signed every player that did not have a qualifying offer attached. So they saved their draft picks. They got a couple, and they didn't trade no prospects. Yet their team got better. And if this Correa deal gets done, they got more better. And that's without giving prospects and without giving draft picks. Like, this was not just throwing money at the wall and hopefully it sticks. Right? This is strategic. If you're paying attention to exactly what they're doing, they're saving their prospects. They got draft picks from giving qualifying offers to other players. And they didn't give up any draft picks because they didn't sign anybody that had a qualifying offer attached. Yes, muted. The Mets do move back in the draft because they went over that Steve Cohen tax, and they lose a little bit of international money too. But again, just because you move back in the draft, you just added a couple of draft picks as well. So, again, it's not like the Mets were picking, second or third in the draft. What were they, 6th last year or 7th last year and 11th, right? Even if they are, clearly, whatever scouting that Steve Cohen put or the money that he put into scouting and the minor league system about trying to get these players in better drafts, the Mets had the #1 draft class last year in 2022. So clearly something's working out. They're doing the right thing. And again, nobody says that this is the right way to just do it, but people act like they're buying every single player when they got Alonso, McNeil, and Nimmo, who is from their system. So they got 3 guys. We always talk about the Yankees core 4. Well, the Mets have 1 less, but they still have 3 guys from their system that are going to be mainstays for probably for the next 8 to 10 years when the Mets sign McNeil and Alonso. And on top of that, right, everybody talks about the core 4 with the Yankees, but yet it's not like they didn't trade for David Justice. They didn't trade for all these other pitchers and all these other players, right? Scott Brosius, Paul O'Neill, Tino Martinez. They weren't homegrown Yankees. So you have to supplement your core with players that you sign or trade for. It's just how it happens. The Dodgers have done it. The Braves did it. They brought in a couple of people. They signed most of their guys. But who won the World Series for them in 2021? Who was the big guys in that World Series? Soler and Rosario. They weren't homegrown. Right? Charlie Morton, one of the better pitchers in baseball at the time, in the middle of a rotation that actually pitched very well in the playoffs in 2021 for the Braves. He wasn't homegrown. Sometimes you have to supplement, and most times you do. Exactly, muted. They got 7 picks this year, and I think that is what's added on from what they got from the qualifying offers they gave to other players that signed elsewhere. Juan, signing guys to short-term deals keep their prospects and not lose draft picks. Got to keep prospects for collateral, even if they don't pan out. I agree. But this also gives the Mets the opportunity for an opportunity, if it arises, if the Red Sox say, all right, we'll have Correa, so Devers is kind of pointless if we do get Correa. But say the Mets don't get Correa, right? They go elsewhere. Escobar, Beatty will be a third baseman, or Escobar will be a third baseman, and they'll use Escobar or Beatty at DH, something like that, right? And now the Mets are clearly going to need a third baseman because you could still bring Beatty to left field when Canna comes off the books the following year. So Beatty can play left field. He played a lot of it in left field in the minors. You can go after Devers and Ohtani. And remember, I already put it on my community page. If you haven't checked, a couple of days ago, I put up the Mets payroll and the projected payrolls over the next couple of years. The Mets, after this year, are going to have $120 million coming off the books. $170 million the year after, $210 million the year after that. That's a lot of money coming off the books. So it's not like the Mets are blocking up their payroll for the next 5 to 10 years from all these contracts. So they can do a lot. If they really want to get Devers and Ohtani, they can get them because there's $120 million off the books, right? Their rotation, you're going to still have Scherzer for 1 more year. You're going to have Verlander for 1 more year. You're going to have Senga still. You're going to probably have, McGill and Peterson, a big part of this rotation, right? If you throw Ohtani in there, well, he's another guy in your rotation. Devers, everybody assumes will probably get between $30 and $35 million. You give $50 million and $35 million to Devers and Ohtani. Not saying it's possible. I'm just saying if the Mets don't get Correa, right? That's $85 million for 2 players. Your roster is mostly set. And you still save $40 million from what came off the books already. And the Mets can still make moves. They're probably going to sign Alonso after this year. Extend Alonso. Extend McNeil after this season. So right there, the money that just came off the books, you added. You keep Alonso, you keep McNeil, Ohtani, and Devers are now on your team. And it's not like Devers is 30 years old. He's 6? Going to be 27 after this year. And Ohtani is 29, 28? And that's why the Mets are in a good situation right now, right? Because it's not like, there was big moments last year where McGill and Peterson were part of this rotation when Scherzer and DeGrom was nowhere to be found in this rotation. So you can feel very confident that Peterson and McGill can step in the rotation. Not saying they can be, aces, because I don't think they are, but I think Peterson can be a solid number 3, definitely a number 4. McGill, he actually pitched opening day. He has the stuff to be probably a solid number 2, right? And the Mets, unlike the Yankees, have 3 prospects, top 10 prospects in their system, pitching prospects: Tidwell, Ziegler, and Allen. Allen is finally healthy. And it's been reported, Joe DeMaio talked about it on one of his news, one of his SNY reports, that Matt Allen is finally, according to everything that, and even Matt Allen talked about it, that he finally feels healthy. So Matt Allen was one of the best pitching prospects in baseball until he got hurt, and it's taken a long time to come back. Now, that doesn't mean nothing, but the Mets do have 3 top prospects in their top 10 that are pitching prospects, that the Mets feel very confident in those guys. Again, they cannot turn out, but they still have options. And, for everybody who keeps on saying the Mets don't have a good farm system, look at the last couple of years, guys. Even the last 5 years, how many guys they had brought up. I mean, at one moment, you had a rotation that had all homegrown talent, right? You had Conforto, you had Nimmo, Alonso, McNeil. There was a lot. So people were going crazy that the Mets didn't have a farm system, yet they were the ones that are still sticking around. Conforto just signed with the Giants, right? Darno, look what he done with the Braves. Even though he wasn't a homegrown, they traded for him. But, he was in the system for a little bit, and then he came up in 2015. To 2014 to 2015. So you still have to, and I think the Mets have, I think it's probably 5 now, but the last time I checked, it was 4 top prospects in MLB's top 100. Now, I'm not saying they got the Cleveland farm system or the Orioles farm system that's like 1 and 2 right now. That's not true at all. But they do have 4 of the top 100 prospects in all of baseball. And Alvarez was number 1 in all of baseball, and I think Beatty was like 10. And then you got Mauricio in there, and you also got Alex Ramirez in there. And there's a pretty good chance, I believe Kevin Parada is also in the top 100. If I remember correctly, I think he was 99 because he barely played. He played in the developmental league mostly when he got drafted. So, well, Michael, no, they came up as Mets, but they were Blue Jays farm system. They were in the system. Well, Moody, yeah. Well, after the Olsen trade, and now with the Murphy trade as well, their farm system is not as good as it was 2 years ago. Well, it's not done yet, guys. We got to wait, see what's going on. Check Twitter really quick. Once again, guys, don't forget to please hit on that like button. We had a great time yesterday with the Correa Watch, even though it was basically no news at all. We're going to hear news today. Everything's back to normal. The offices are open. Boris, Cohen, Epler, Correa. It's this. I have a pretty good feeling it's going to get settled today. I have a pretty good feeling about that because both sides can't prolong this any longer. It doesn't benefit anybody. Because if it prolongs, then teams are also going to start wondering what the hell is going on with Correa. And it's going to hurt both sides. So we're going to check Twitter really quick. I don't think anything happened, but let's see. And once again, if you're just tuning in, the Mets made it official with Adam Ottavino, which... All right, so here's another report from WFAN. They just got this report from probably another reporter that Carlos Correa is apparently uninterested in restructuring the deal, but remains committed to the Mets. So that just tells you that he wants the years, he wants the money, and I don't think the Mets mind about the years and the money. I think it's more of the fact that they just want protection just in case he does hurt his ankle down the road. And, whatever the language could be, whatever is allowed by the CBA, the Mets are going to do. Terry, the community page, if you go on my channel, there's a list that you'll see of videos, you'll see membership, you'll see community. You click on that, and then you can see everything I post. It's not videos. I mean, you can post videos, but on the community page. But it's like, polls, pictures, reports, links that people can just check on, and it's a good way to have conversation with you guys when I'm not doing live streams and videos at the time. Well, Hot Billy, don't listen to Frank the Tank, because Frank the Tank is the most negative Mets fan known to man. I mean, he's actually I don't know what's wrong with that guy. But as soon as the concerns about the physical came out, he tweeted, "Oh, we're going to really go with Vogelback and Ruff now, and we're going to be Wilpon-esque." Well, we're not, because the Mets already have a better bullpen than last year. Name-wise, again, we don't know, but it's looking like it's a lot stronger and deeper in the bullpen than it was last year, because, let's be honest, besides Ottavino, there wasn't a lot of people to trust in that bullpen for the bridge to Diaz. You got a couple of guys that can easily be a bridge to Diaz, and the Mets probably are not done in the bullpen. There was talks about a week ago before the Correa deal or agreement that Liam Hendricks was a possibility. I mean, I don't know if the Mets traded McCann to the Orioles because that deal kind of fell apart. Remember, it was supposed to be McCann and Vientos. That was the talk. Maybe it'll be different. And then we heard another report. The White Sox really like Ronnie Mauricio. I already said this. If I'm going to get one of the best closers in the game, and he'll be the number 8 inning guy, and close every now and then when Edwin Diaz pitches a few ninth innings in a row, and you want to give him a break, I do that, because Mauricio has no spot on this team, especially if the Mets get Carlos Correa. He was the MVP of the Dominican Winter League, but guess where he played? Shortstop, third base, second base. Where is he playing on the Mets? Even if you want to throw him to left field, Beatty, if he's still on this team, which I believe he will be, he's probably going to be a left fielder now if you get Correa. So you got Nimmo for 8 years in center field. Are you going to move Mauricio to right field? Well, that takes time. You can't just throw him there and says, "Hey, kid, have at it." No, it takes time. And if the Mets really wanted to move him, the only place he can move to is right field. But you still got Marte for 3 more years. So what are you really doing with Mauricio? The best option is to get the best deal that's going to help this team for Mauricio. And again, even if Mauricio becomes a star, he's in the south side of Chicago, in the American League. He's not going to affect you, even if he becomes an all-star. And if he does become an all-star, there's a pretty good chance the White Sox won't re-sign him. So the Mets sign him 6 years later, right? I mean, so it really comes back to the fact that the Mets put themselves in good position. If they need to make a trade, they can. They got enough prospects where if they really need to make a big trade, if this Correa deal doesn't happen, they have the opportunity to do so. You can trade Beatty if you want to trade him for Devers. I mean, what is it? Beatty's a couple of years younger than Devers. Devers is 26 years old. You trade for Devers, you sign him to a 12-year deal. He's only going to be, 38 years old at the time of the end of the contract? Like, I'll do that in a heartbeat. You got to give a couple of other guys, and I already told you guys this. Kevin Parada is going to be a better overall player than Francisco Alvarez. I don't think Alvarez is going to be anything better than a decent to good catcher behind the plate. And we still don't know how he can work with rotations. Is he going to have good communication? Is he going to work well with the rotation? That's a big deal. Just because you can throw the ball to second base and catch the ball doesn't mean you're going to be a good catcher. There's a lot more that goes involved with that. And I don't know if Alvarez is going to do that. It's not like the Mets haven't been working with him. So I think Kevin Parada is going to be better overall. He might not have the power as Alvarez, but he can hit you 20, 25 home runs. He has that potential to have that power. He can also He has just as good as arm as Alvarez, and he's already a better defensive catcher than Alvarez. So, and that's why when I saw the Mets draft Kevin Parada, the best prospect catcher in college that the Mets got, that other teams wanted, that were behind the Mets, that told me that Alvarez could be expendable if the right deal pops up. All right, what do we got here? Let's see, Twitter. What's going on in the world of Twitter? Because that's where we get all our news nowadays. God, remember, imagine if there wasn't Twitter and we still have to wait for a newspaper. Oh, that was fun. All right, let's go. What do we got? Anything? Let's see. And there's also a pretty good chance with signing Omar Narvaez that Alvarez is going to start in the minor leagues, especially if the Mets get Correa. There's really no spot in this team for Alvarez at this time. No, muted, exactly. You drafted in the draft in Major League Baseball is 1 for depth and 2 for it's a developmental draft, basically. You got to develop these guys. There's only certain guys like Harper and, like Machado, guys like that, that need a half a year in the minors. Even Conforto for that matter. Those guys came right up, right? I mean, Conforto is not on the level of those guys, but not every player can just get drafted and shoot up the league just like that. Like, it's just not, it's rare. But, it gives the opportunity, especially when the guys like Williams and Parada, the guys the Mets drafted at the top of the draft, it's a big deal. And again, the Mets had the number 1 draft class in that draft. Like, they were number 1, and that was from multiple news outlets, like reputable ones. Like, it wasn't even close how good the Mets draft was. And that comes back to Steve Cohen, who put money into the scouting, put money into the farm system, everything you need to do, analytics team, everything. Because I think analytics and the scouting, especially analytics in the minors and the scouting, that can help these scouts try to project the best they can about these players and why they draft them. I think analytics works a hell of a lot more for drafting kids than it does at the major league level. I think analytics basically destroyed the game. Oh, launch angle was a big thing. Well, guess what? How good is launch angle now when you don't have the shift anymore? I can assure you that's going to make a lot of problems for a lot of hitters that basically develop their game into a launch angle swing, and you don't have to hit it over the shift anymore. So that's a big deal now. Remember, launch angle was a big deal analytically because of the fact that the shift was causing players that had leveled swings or not much of an uppercut swing. They were getting outs because they were hitting them right into the shift. So a lot of teams develop this launch angle and say this is the best way to hit it over the shift, right? Strikeouts aren't a big deal anymore. Averages isn't a big deal anymore. Hit the ball over the wall. You don't want to hit it into the shift. That's basically what it is. Yeah, exactly, Christian. Analytics basically eliminated base stealing, and I still think that it's still a huge part of the game that is lost, and it should be back this year. 1, without the shift, 2, with the bigger bases, and now the rule that the pitcher can only throw over a couple of times. Stealing bases should be a thing again, and you know what? That's an exciting part of the game that's been lost. They were talking about, let's get the casual fan. Let's make the game instead of 3 hours and 35 minutes, it's 3 hours and 29 minutes. Really think 6 minutes matter? No. Casual fans, if you're not going to watch baseball, you're never going to watch baseball. But you know what? When they turn on the television and they watch the baseball, if they put on a baseball game, they're like, oh, wow, look at that. Look at that. The excitement of stolen bases. Stolen bases are a lot of fun, right? Especially when you're at a game. Especially there's a lot of casual fans that go to games every now and then. Like you'll see it all the time. You guys know this, right? You're looking right there and you're standing at the game. And when you see that guy take off from first or second or once in a blue moon, third base, stealing home, right? It's exciting, right? The guy is running, the pitcher throws the pitch, catcher's throwing the ball. It's excitement. That's lost. And when it happens, everybody's shocked about it. Like you're watching SNY and you're like, the runner's going. Wait, what? Wait. Is that allowed? And the big reason why the Mets were so good last year, because they took that extra base. The Mets had more stolen bases than they did in the last couple of years. And it wasn't a lot more, but they stole enough bases. It was a little bit exciting. It was much more exciting. Putting the ball in play, going first to third, stealing the base, right? Bunting guys over. Nita was the expert in bunting. It seemed like he got the bunt down every single time to move the runner over. That's why the Mets were so good in the first half, because they didn't waste outs. When they made an out, it was productive. How many times did you hear me in a live stream during a game? That was a productive out. That was a productive out. Like it was a broken record, because that's what they did so well. And then when they slowly got away from that, that's when it hurt them later in the year. They didn't score as many runs as they did in the first half, right? They dropped down a full run from first half to second half. And don't think for a second that's not from the lack of small ball, the lack of stolen bases, the lack of moving the runners over and getting productive outs. Exactly, Peter. Like, did everybody just like Reyes because he was a good offensive player? No, because he was electric on the base paths. When he hit the ball in the gap, you're like, oh, this is fun watching him go home to third, like quick. And every now and then you might have an inside a park home run if the park's big enough, right? It was a lot of fun. You don't see that anymore, and it sucks. It really does suck. It hurt the game. And let's hope that the ban of the shift and the bigger bases and the pitcher can't throw it over so many times is a huge difference. And by the way, people like to talk about Taijuan Walker. A good deal with the Phillies. Taijuan Walker's big part of his game was picking off runners. Well, when you can't throw over more than 3 times, that's a part of his game that he's going to hurt. So if you don't pick that runner off in the first 3 times, and if you're the runner, why would you even take a big lead on the first 3 pitches of the first 3 pickoffs? Because if he throws over a couple of times, the 4th time he can just take off because you can't throw over. So that's a rule that a lot of us have to get used to. All right, let's see. Someone just said on Twitter about the deal being dead. I don't know how true that is. Yeah, I think that was let's see. Let's see. I don't see nothing about that, guys. Remember, guys, you got to look for verified accounts too. There's a lot of accounts that have been. I mean, there's this one guy, MLB Scoops, that been saying for 4 days or 3 days or 2 days that, oh, the Twins, this guy, oh, the deal is done, the deal is dead. And then yesterday he says, oh, the Mets are trying to restructure the deal. So you got to make sure these are verified accounts. Don't go so crazy about what you see just because it's not a verified account. Hold on, guys. I'm just checking something. All right, guys. So there we go. Adam King. Let's see. Who is Adam King? During these off seasons, there's people that we never heard of that pop out of nowhere. Let's see. Adam King. There's a lot of Adam Kings. Let's see. TV 10 reporter. He's basically a Ohio sports guy. I'm assuming that's who you're talking about because, right? 10 TV, Adam King, reporter, anchor covering the Buckeyes, Blue Jackets, Crew, and Clippers. Yeah, I don't see why an Ohio reporter would have anything like that. I could be wrong. That was the guy, but let's see. There's a couple of Adam Kings. Let's see. Who's this guy? No. Let's see. Soccer player? No. Yeah, it's not even just about passing. Again, Heyman has been on this report, right? He was the one that broke it, and everybody laughed at him like it wasn't true. And then reports came out after Heyman that it was true when they agreed upon it. So there hasn't been much. The last thing we heard was that there's two different reports. There was one, the Mets and Correa are still talking and negotiating. So that's not a bad sign. If they weren't talking, that's a concern. So they're still talking as of this point. And there also was a report that we don't know how true it is, but there has been reports that Correa doesn't want to restructure his deal. Now that is more in the situation where he doesn't want to change the years and the money. But if that's true and the Mets are okay with that, they're probably negotiating the language in the contract. Well, Jacob, yeah. Well, yeah, they do believe. Heyman has been a reputable reporter for years. He made a mistake, and I can assure you now it was a big mistake, but he did get that right about Correa. Nobody else had it at all. And Heyman, again, we've talked about it earlier. Boris and Cohen have been feeding leaks and news to Heyman. Like I said, Heyman is an interesting guy, but he's been doing this a long time as well, guys. You know, people love passing, but it's not like passing hasn't been wrong before either. Now, Heyman really screwed up with the Aaron Judge thing, but let's be honest, guys. It's not like the Giants did not have the same contract that the Yankees eventually offered him. Yeah, exactly, Fireblazing. If you look at it, yeah, all right, so, Jacob, you never misspelled something on a tweet or anywhere? Of course you did. Now, it was even if he had Aaron Judge to Giants and he didn't spell anything wrong, he was still wrong. But I think more people went crazy over it because he spelt the name wrong as well. If he spelt everything right and the tweet was wrong, just like every other reporter has deleted a tweet if they were wrong. But he was 100% right on this deal. And a big reason why was because Cohen, look, why would Cohen do an exclusive interview with John Heyman after the mistake that John Heyman made with Aaron Judge? You know why? Because people within the game still believe that still know and believe that John Heyman is a reputable reporter. So that's what and, you know, if Steve Cohen didn't trust John Heyman, why would he do an exclusive interview with John Heyman? He could have done it with Jeff Passan. Could have done it with Joel Sherman, Ken Rosendahl. He didn't. He could have done it with Andy Martino, who is a Mets reporter. But he didn't. And that's why Heyman got this deal, because he's close with Boris and he's close with Cohen. And let's be honest, if you notice what Heyman has been doing, if you look at all the tweets over the winter meetings before the Aaron Judge thing, Heyman had a lot of the reports and the sign-ins and trades from different players that were associated with Scott Boras. Let's see. Yeah, Heyman's a little bit nutty, but he's not bad. Listen, I mean, he's a hell of a lot better than Andy Martino. Andy Martino never breaks anything at all. Like Andy Martino, every time he gets a report, if he does any type of report or he puts out a link to what he wrote on SNY, it's always negative about the Mets, right? He was so positive and so determined and so confident that the Mets were going to get Scherzer last year, like it was a joke that people actually reported that. And he looks like an idiot. He did the same thing this year with Verlander. He didn't think the Mets were going to get Verlander. He said it. And then all of a sudden, when it looked like it was possible, all of a sudden he changed his tune. Same thing with Carlos Correa. Oh, they're not getting Carlos Correa. Now, nobody can predict that's going to happen, what happened with the Mets and Correa, but it still happened. And he also said the Mets weren't the favorites to get Senga. And Nimmo looked like it was. Look at Andy Martino's report, I think, a few days before Nimmo signed back with the Mets. He said the Mets were out. I mean, come on. Like that, you can't be that bad. Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think Cohen. If you look, I'm sorry. If you look at Martino, look what he writes about the Yankees. Look what he writes about the Mets. Yet he came up with as a Mets reporter and a beat reporter, and then he got associated with SNY, who is all New York sports. Which I honestly think the Wilpon Stallone. We all know that if Cohen ever gets his hands on SNY, it's going to be wall to wall Mets. It's not going to be any other New York sports team. Maybe the Jets because they're kind of associated with each other and stuff like that. But I think that's a good idea as well that Cohen can look at as well. Fireblazing, I'm sorry. There you go. I knew I saw some green. All right. Thank you for the super chat, by the way. Doesn't the MLB have to approve any language in regards to stuff with the leg injury and whatnot? Could this be hold up? Yeah, exactly. That's the whole point. And it was reported even in that Heyman newspaper in the Post. What he said. He says that Boris is, everything has to go back to the offices. Major League Baseball and MLBPA, because they got a collective bargaining agreement, they both have to approve of whatever language, and this goes for every sign-in and contract, and even trades and physicals. If there's anything that is not within the rules of the CBA, the deal is going to get squashed. Now, doesn't mean that the deal would be dead. Like if the MLBPA says, listen, we can't allow this in this language. You got to fix it up. Then they go back to the table. They could have been doing this multiple times already. That's why we probably haven't heard a deal yet or a non-deal. Because I can guarantee you that Boris and the Mets are like, this looks good. Let's send it to the offices. And the offices bring back says, all right, you got to keep on changing it. It doesn't fit with the CBA. But don't think for a second that Boris and Cohen and Epler, guys who supposed to know everything that's involved with the CBA. I mean, they had a lockout because of the CBA. You don't think they know what's going on? These guys that are in there, they don't even have to probably bring it to the offices because they know what's in the CBA and what can be allowed or not. The Mets can't say, all right, if you hurt your ankle in year 6, we can take away the last 4 years of the contract. You can't do that. That's not allowed in the CBA. But what they could do is insurance purposes where they might have insurance in the deal where the Mets aren't on the hook for more than 30% of the contract if he's hurt with that injury. Now they only might pay 15%. And it doesn't hurt payroll, so to speak. And that's what the Mets are probably looking at right now. And that's why it's probably holding up. Because if the money in the years are not changing, then the deal should have been signed already. So that indication just says, well, they're probably working on the language in the contract, going deep into the contract for the Mets to protect themselves. Remember, if Correa didn't really want the Mets, he would have Boris speak to all the teams just like Boris did with the Mets, right? Boris wasn't waiting around, and Boris knew that Correa did not want. He wanted to be the Mets, especially when they came in late in the game. But because they were so far ahead or in talks with the Giants, and that was like, all right, we can't just back out like that. Remember, Correa got dressed for the press conference, so he was looking for a house in San Francisco in the Bay Area. So he was, he might have not been 100% happy because he knew the Mets were involved and he wanted to play with Lindor, but he was gonna abide by the signing of that contract when he was signing it. Remember, the signing happens not too long before the actual press conference. Remember, Correa did not sign the contract yet, and he was getting ready for the press conference. As soon as he walked into whatever the hell, Oracle Park, he would have signed the deal just there. So, it's not like, this is going to prolong probably much longer than a day or two. Because, again, we're going to start hearing more details for sure. Especially if things are going bad, I can guarantee you Boris is going to leak stuff that is not really what Met fans want to hear. Because he's got to protect his client. He's got to work with his client. He's got to have another option for his client. And if he doesn't leak anything, it tells me, especially Boris is a shark. We all know that. So there's no doubt that if Boris wasn't happy with the negotiations right now, even if it is only language in the contract, you don't think Boris would have got a reporter or John Heyman for that matter and say, listen, John, put this out there. Correa is going back on the market. Or the deal with the Mets and us are not looking good. He would have said that already. At least at this moment, it would have been said already. And knowing that we haven't heard nothing bad, I think is a good sign. Because, again, both sides want this to work out. It looks bad for both sides. And that's why I think it's still going to get done. And once again, Fireblazing, thank you for the super chat. Let's see. Sorry, guys. I'm just catching up on the content. Well, Cohen was the only one involved. When it was agreed upon with the deal, half the people in the front office of the Mets didn't even know what was happening. They heard the news and they were like, what the hell? Cohen, look, when Cohen wants somebody, he gets involved. He got involved with, you heard Verlander. They asked him, why'd you choose the Mets? Steve. I mean, Billy Apple is the GM. So, if Steve Cohen wants that guy, and Steve Cohen said it in that interview with John Heyman, he thought that Correa is the missing piece to this team. And he could be wrong, he could be right, but that's what he believes. And when he feels like that's the issue, that's what they need, and he's determined to do it, he will get involved. And he's the owner. Who's going to stop him? Well, Trippy, interested is not exactly the word I would use. They checked in. Because, teams are wondering, especially made around the league, hey, especially the teams that could be involved. I don't think the Braves and the Yankees are necessarily, because why would the Braves pay Correa $150 million more than what they could have paid Swanson? The Yankees are so in love with Volpe and Peraza, I don't see them doing that. And I don't think, and if the Yankees get them, find a way to get Correa, that means he's going over $300 million. So Hal, in the interview at the Aaron Judge press conference, said, hey, I don't think you need to have a $300 million payroll to win a championship. So why would Hal do it now? He just said that. Either he's lying or it's very true. And all indications are he's probably not going to do that. And but Bravos, there's no indication that Correa is taking a shorter term deal. He's not even reworking the Mets years and money right now. So why would he take a short term deal again? If that's the case, he'll go to the Twins and they'll probably give him 10 years, $300 million. Twins, I think, are more likely than the Braves and the Yankees. Correa's not taking another short term deal because it's not like he takes another 1 year deal, even if it's $30 million. The same issue is going to come up the following year with the physical. This guy's getting a long term deal. It's just a matter of how much, how many years, and if he's not going to break off that 12-year $315, then the Braves and the Yankees are out. There's no way they're going to pay that. And he's not going to take a short-term deal. Why would he do that? He has a risk of getting hurt. And then that big contract is off the table. He's not taking a short-term deal, and Boris is not going to let him do that. He did it last year because he was only 27 years old. He knew if he had a good year, he hits very well in Minnesota in his career, so it worked out that way. He had a good year, and now he's back on the table, and he's probably going to get the most money out of every shortstop. Well, Dio, even I think that he's not taking anything less than $300 million. David, I don't think the Dodgers are going to do it. I think the Dodgers are setting up themselves for an Ohtani Devers offseason, or at least one of them. That's just my opinion. Because there's no reason why the Dodgers shouldn't went after any of the guys. And the Dodgers were really never involved in Correa. They checked in, but I mean, why wouldn't the Dodgers be involved in Correa? And remember, the Dodgers already said they don't want Correa because, the cheater. So it's not happening with the Dodgers. I think the Dodgers are setting themselves up. They're under $200 million. Their payroll, I think, is 189 the last time I checked. They're setting themselves off for next offseason for Ohtani and or Devers. Because if Ohtani really does want to stay in LA, he's not staying with the Angels. The Angels are in flux right now with Artie Moreno selling the Angels. So if he's going to stay in LA, there's only one other team in LA. And the Dodgers are setting themselves up for that. And I think the Dodgers are probably, if Ohtani does want to come to New York, it's probably going to be the Mets. I don't think anybody's going to outspend the Mets. But if Ohtani doesn't want to come to New York, I think he's a Dodger. But I do think the Dodgers probably think that they have a better chance of landing Devers than Ohtani if Ohtani does want to go to any team that pays him. Well, Silver Fox, they can be all in on Ohtani, but if Ohtani does not mind coming to New York, the Mets are going to outbid everybody. And on top of that, Epler has a relationship with Ohtani. Do I think the Dodgers are going to be a threat? Absolutely. But I honestly, I think that the Dodgers are probably, I have a pretty good feeling that they're probably going to land Devers. Because if the Mets really want Ohtani and Ohtani does not mind, and Ohtani has a good relationship with Billy Epler. Again, we keep on looking past that with Billy Epler. Billy Epler got Ohtani to not go to the Yankees, and the Yankees offered him more money and more years. People tend to forget that, and I said this earlier. The Mets have $120 million coming off the books. There's all indications that Ohtani's probably going to get like $50 million per year. Because if you really think about it, $25 million a pitcher, $25 million as an offensive player. You put that together, it's going to be around that much per year. The Mets have more than enough money to give whatever Ohtani wants. The Dodgers do too. But again, Billy Epler has that relationship. Look, if Ohtani wants to stay in the California area or on the West Coast, yeah, then the Dodgers probably are the favorite. But if he doesn't mind coming to New York, nobody's outbidding the Mets. Because the Mets already shown that they will outbid anybody. It's obvious. And let's be honest, guys. The Dodgers have had a hard time. You don't think the owners of the Dodgers, the group that owns them, are looking at the last couple of years when they had the highest payroll in baseball for what, 5 years straight, 6 years straight, and you get one championship and all those division titles and only one championship in a pandemic year, and then the best year that the Dodgers had, record-wise, they lost in the NLDS. At some point, the Dodgers might not go crazy like they're not doing this year, and I think they are setting themselves up for next year, though. Silver Fox, that's not true. Again, you're just not paying attention. You just want to believe that because the Dodgers, you're a Dodger fan. Who farted? Listen. I'm not on your channel. You're on mine. All right. I'm answering questions that people are putting on the chat. All right. If you don't want to listen, leave. I don't force anybody to be here. Well, Telly, exactly. And again, it really depends on what Ohtani wants to do. If Ohtani wants to stay on the West Coast, I think the Dodgers are the favorite. But everybody, look, there's been many, many reports that the Mets are going to do everything they can to get Ohtani. Again, it might not work out. Jason, you don't know that because it could be a cheap SOB that just wants to pocket the money, right? There is enough owners in this league that, that pocket their money and don't put it back into the team. The Dodgers aren't that team. The Mets are not that team. The Yankees were for a long time. It's around $120 million. Again, that's not looking at arbitration and stuff like that. It might be a couple $1 million less, a couple $1 million more, depending on the arbitration on certain players. Oh, I actually have a job, but you don't pay attention. So, yeah, dick. Like, I don't understand people. Like, what is wrong with you people? Like, you're watching me. So clearly you're in the same basement than I am then. Come on. God, people are stupid. Oh yeah, so it's about $120 million, give or take a few $1,000,000, depending on arbitration. And again, it really depends because you got to remember, guys. Look at all the money coming off the books: Carrasco, Quintana, Canna, Escobar. The Mets are gonna have a little bit less money coming off the books after McCann. And I was doing the math earlier because I was curious about that. But every year after this year, 2024, 2025, 2026, at 2026, there's over $220 million coming off the payroll. And then yes, they're going to re-sign, extend Alonso and McNeil. So obviously that's going to be about $50 to $60 million, right? But they still have all that money coming off the books. That's why when people are bitching and moaning and the owners are crying poor because of the Mets, it's not like they put long-term deals into this payroll. They haven't. That's why they've given a lot of short-term deals. And that's why when people are like, oh, how can you give this guy this much money? It's not about the average annual value. It's about a year's. Nimmo's young enough. You can give him that type of deal. Lindor was under 30 years old. You can give him that type of deal. Correa is under 30 years old. You can get them because they're going to be a part of your team for the next 10 years. The core part of their years, which is the next 3 to 5 years, you're going to have those guys. They're not going to be complete duds, right? So you can add Ohtani or add somebody else. Bring a little bit of young fusion in Beatty or Alvarez if they're still on this, if they're still on the Mets. And that's the idea that people don't want to talk about. They want to bitch, moan, and complain. Oh, look at all the money the Mets are spending. But again, just look at what the Mets had to do to replace all the players that were free agents on their team. We keep on talking about the same thing, but we keep on coming back to the same issues, right? Every time you pop up on Twitter, people are bitching and moaning about what the Mets are spending. But yet, if they brought everybody back from last year, the payroll was going to be at least $350 million. Yeah, it might be a little less, but it's well over $300 million, and people still would complain. So what were the Mets supposed to do? How are they supposed to replace the guys on the roster? You can't just bring up all young kids and pray for the best when you're a team that won 101 games last year and we're one of the favorites to win the World Series. Well, Mark, yeah, I agree with that, but that doesn't mean Correa and Boras have to agree to that. Yeah, the current CBA expires in 2026. But listen, it would be ideal for the Mets to get this shorter term deal. Remember, we were talking about it yesterday, 7, 8, 9 years. But again, there's no reason why the Correa should be backing off of that, right? If there's enough language where the Mets feel confident, Brian, that's your own sources in your head. Sorry, it's no. Hal already told you he's not going over $300 million. He even said when they asked him about Correa and the Mets, he says he don't think any team needs to spend $300 million to win a championship. Yet he's $50 million from that, and they don't look like they're spending any more money. That's why they're trying for trades, because they're trying to keep that payroll under what it is now. It's going to take these big contracts for 40-year-old players to complete bust before the market changes. Yeah, well, Tylee, everybody thought the market was changing 2 years ago when all the big free agents didn't sign until like February. All right, we got a tweet coming up. What's going on here, guys? Let's see. Yeah, again, you see, a lot of these reports are coming out that Correa is not interested in restructuring the contract with the New York Mets. It seems like the same thing is just getting reported over and over again. Yeah, see, this is just Pat Ragazzo just rewording Mike Puma's New York Post article. Correa's preference is to play for the New York Mets. However, he has no interest in restructuring the length or financial terms of his contract. At least 3 teams have checked in the camp in the recent days. So it was prior to the holidays. but Correa is committed to finalizing the deal with the Mets. Puma also reported that there is optimism that the Mets and Correa will be able to complete a deal. So it's the same stuff that everybody's just repeating themselves. Again, there has been no listen. The Yankees had every opportunity to sign Correa this whole time. Why didn't they? Well, Peter, exactly. We talked about that earlier. There's no reason why Correa can't be a DH later in his career, right? I mean, that's not. I don't see why that's so much of an issue. Like in years past, when there was no DH, I get it. That's rough to do, and that's why the American League always had the advantage because they can sign guys to longer term deals, and later in the career, put them over to DH. Excuse me. You know, there was a percentage that people were talking about in Puma's article, 55%, and that was yesterday, and it seems like the same thing today. But again, that's speculation, right? If leaks aren't coming out from Boris or Cohen, where are they getting this from? Probably nobody. The Dodgers are not, Brian, why would the Dodgers go after him? Do you listen to what the Dodgers have said? The Dodgers are not going after Correa because they know their fans are mad at the whole situation with the Astros cheating scandal. It's not happening. The Dodgers are not in on him. Now, do I believe the Yankees might have checked in? Probably, but I don't think the Yankees or the Braves are going to go after Correa unless it's like a 2 or 3 year deal. And if the Correa is not willing to restructure his years and financial terms on the contract that the Mets currently have, why would he do it with any other team? That doesn't make sense. The only team that I could see scooping him up is the Minnesota Twins because they already had him. You know, they'll close their eyes doing a physical and probably give him the same deal that was reported that they offered. All right, Brian. I'm sorry. Brian, you're not listening. You're really not. Jesus. Well, yeah, Tilly, but you know what? When the market develops and this, look, everybody's getting overpaid, right? Everybody is, you know, nobody thought Nimmo was going to get that much money in that many years. Well, Peter, I don't understand why Correa would be an option. They just got Bogarts. Yeah, Jordan, the Giants aren't going back because they're not going to give him that money. Remember, the Giants were taking their time because they probably knew that Correa was going to go by the wayside. Cooper, but there's no reason for Correa to do that again. There's no incentive for that. He gets a $30 million deal for 1 year with opt-out, so 2 years with an opt-out. So he's at risk of getting injured again and also not having a good year and goes back on the market and gets less money. Well, yeah, Darryl, of course. I mean, Boris wouldn't be doing his job if he wouldn't ask that, right? I know, Jordan, I know. But, you know, it comes back to the same thing. You know, the reason why he did a 1 year, basically a 2 year deal with 1 year opt out was because of the fact that he was the last one on the market last year, and the money wasn't even close to what he was offered this year. He's not going to risk getting hurt again when multiple teams now that had concerns about his physical offered him over $300 million. He's not backing out of that. And there's already reports that he's not backing down on the Mets agreement for 12 years, $350 million. He don't want to change that. So clearly, he's not going to go to another team and give a short-term deal. It just doesn't make sense because he can do it with the Mets. Why wouldn't the Mets want a short-term deal? He wants to play with the Mets. Oh, I don't fall into the trap, but it's just that I'm one who reads everybody's comments. You don't have to send a super chat to get me to read your comments. Well, Juan, yeah, he might not have a choice, but if he wants to be a Met, wouldn't he just take a short-term deal with the Mets if that's the case? Like, the Mets ain't going to just let him walk away and take a short-term deal with any other team. That's stupid. Well, Tyler, there is deferral payments. Like, a lot of these contracts are front-loaded and deferred for many years after their contract. All these contracts are like that now. There's a lot of deferrals. There's a lot of backload, front loaded of the contract. You pay them more now and later, less money in the later years of the contract. Let's see. Let's just see something, guys. Give me a second. Let's see what else is going on. See if there's anything new. All right. Let's see. Because looking back, that we're hearing reports that Carlos Correa doesn't want to restructure the deal, the term of the deal, and the financial term of the deal. Wouldn't the Mets have backed out already if that was the case? So, if that's not the issue with the Mets, the years and the money, and they just want to protect themselves with the language, Boris has done this before with Martinez. So, I think it would have been a dead deal already if the restructuring of the deal was the Mets' main purpose of not agreeing to this deal yet, right? That's the only thing I can think of. Like, if the Mets weren't satisfied with the years and the money after this physical and the concerns, wouldn't they have backed out already? Like, all Steve Cohen has to do, hey, we want to change this deal. We don't want 12 years. We want 10. Boris is like, no, it's not happening. Wouldn't the Mets already backed out of it? So clearly it's more about the language that both sides are trying to negotiate. And again, it comes back to making sure the MLBPA and MLB approves these languages in that contract. Well, yeah, Joe, but again, Martinez was only a 4-year deal, but the Red Sox still wanted language in the deal to protect themselves. So, but you got to remember, guys, just because we don't hear about protections and language in the contracts of other free agents, you don't think there's protection and language in the contract for Turner or Bogarts or anybody who signs a long-term deal? Of course there is. Every contract has language that protects the organization. We just don't hear about it, but we hear about this because it's high profile because of what already happened with Correa and the Giants. Cooper, there's no guarantee, because what happens if he has a bad year or he gets hurt? Nobody's going to give him that type of money. Well, yeah, Juan, of course, but that's every team signing everybody to a long-term deal. Like, you can actually say that the Turner deal with the Phillies is more risky than the Correa deal with the Mets. Why? Because Turner relies about 90% of his game is relied on his legs. He's 30 years old. If in 5 years he's 35, you think he's going to have the same speed and the same agility and the same reaction time? No. Correa's game, not speed. Correa is his glove, and he still hits for a good enough power and average that really doesn't go away that quickly. Your legs go away quickly. Well, Cooper, again, we're not talking about caving. Nobody's caving here. There's no indication that the Mets don't want to still give the 12 years, $350 million. And if this deal was going to be dead, the Mets would have been like, we're not giving you that years and that money because it is concerned. If that was the case, this deal would have been dead 2 days ago. So clearly, it's getting worked out in depths of this contract. The more important part, the language of this contract. And let's be honest, go back to when Martinez was trying to sign with the Red Sox. Boris was his agent. it took a while for this thing to get done, right? The deal was agreed upon, but then there was concerns. It took a while for that language to get worked out. Remember, this isn't just, one page and like, okay, if this happens, this is a freaking book. It's a lot. And also, you have to get approval from the MLB and the MLBPA offices before anything. That's why nothing has been basically official, because of that aspect. And I do think both of these guys are well too far down the road, because Boris, what happens if this deal doesn't work out? And now there's teams that are going to be backing off because he's clearly going to fail a physical again. It's not like it's going to go out of nowhere, right? It's not like the ankle's going to magically look good on another physical. So it's going to be a concern for any team. And again, if he really wants to play for the Mets, wouldn't he take a short-term deal with the Mets than any other team? I would think so. Because even if he does a 3-year deal with an opt-out after the first year, he has a really good year. He can go back on the market. He can play with the Mets for 1 year and play with Lindor. It's not like he plays third base 1 year and all of a sudden he's not a shortstop anymore. He still will be. I'm probably going to stream again until like 1:30 or so, and then, relax. And then, of course, if anything breaks, I'll pop back on for, the news that breaks or something like that. No, Cobra, I agree. None of these deals that are long term are going to work out after probably year 6. Like, it's very hard to think they will. Correa was the youngest of the bunch as shortstops. Yet he's going to get the most money and probably similar to almost the most amount of years as well. So it comes down to it, like, there is no 10-year deal that's going to work out. Even a 9-year deal. I can assure you, Lindor, Correa, Bogarts, Turner, Judge, we're all going to be a disaster after year 6. We're going to be talking about it like, wow, these guys are done. Or if not done, they're not as good. Cooper, I agree. And we talked about this. He's one of the best players and clutch performers in the playoffs. And that's the reason why the Mets want him. Right? The Mets struggled in the postseason. It wouldn't hurt to have one of those guys. And again, if this deal was going to die and get messed up, I felt like the Mets, if they really didn't want to keep that offer on the table, they can just say, all right, we're not going to give you this deal. It would have been done already. I agree, Cooper. I think that's that's why it's important. Because, listen, any deal, long-term deal, if the Phillies win a World Series and Turner's on that automatically is a good deal. The same thing with Judge with the Yankees. Same thing with Bogarts and the Padres. Same thing with the Mets and Lindor and Correa. Like, it doesn't... I think too many people look into that. Like I can assure you guys, my season tickets are not much more expensive than last year. Like, it's up maybe like $100, but every year it goes up. So, it's not like it's inflation. It's the way the world is. Like, it really doesn't have nothing to do with payroll a lot of the times. Because if that's the case, the Mets and the Padres, you couldn't buy a ticket for less than $500 if that's the case. You could still go to a baseball game for $6. Like, you can. Brandon, I did see the Regazzo tweet. He basically reworded what Puma wrote 2 days ago and yesterday. So, it's nothing new. Again, everything that's been reported today is everything that has been speculated over the last couple of days. Good afternoon, Moby. Well, Cooper, I come on, you guys got money. Stop acting like these owners are broke. They're not. Come on. The Astros didn't want to keep those guys. If they did, they would have signed them. Like, can we stop with this? The Pittsburgh Pirates could have signed Aaron Judge, Correa, and Rodon and still have a lower payroll than 15 teams in the league. Every owner can afford it. Let's not act like they can't. The Astros have been a winning team for the last, 8 years? They won a championship. They won 2 now. You don't think that drives a lot of money into the pockets of the owner? Let's be honest. The owner didn't want to spend the money. That's it. It's not like they don't have just the money if they refuse to do it. But again, the Astros have been great. And look what the Astros did. Now, I don't think any team should actually basically suck for years, a couple of years in a row, like the Astros did, just to get the number one draft, the number one in the draft for many years in a row, and that's how they got good. But let's not act like they didn't trade for Cole or trade for Verlander and give him a 1 year. And yeah, they don't do a lot of long-term deals. But any owner can keep any player they want. It's embarrassing for teams like the Pittsburgh Pirates not to sign McCutchen to a long-term deal, or other guys. Look at the Marlins. You know, I don't care what anybody says. You don't own a baseball team unless you're a billionaire. There is no reason why you can't have $150 million payroll. Every team. These owners don't want to. That's on the owners. That's on nobody else. Like when people are like, oh, there should be a salary floor. The Major League Baseball owners are not going to agree to it unless the MLB agrees to a salary cap. And CAA, I know. There should be a salary floor. But Major League Baseball is not going to go along with the salary floor until MLBPA agrees to a salary cap. And you already know the MLBPA, which is one of the strongest unions in this country, are not going to go for the salary cap. So it's not going to happen. Exactly, Evil. Houston owner is worth $1.6 billion. He probably makes between $300 and $500 million profit every year. The Atlanta Braves made $500 million profit in 2021. And they're nowhere near the most richest owner in baseball. That's how much money the Braves made. So even if the Pirates made $150 million profit, and that's a team that's terrible and has no payroll. So you don't think they could have put $50 to $60 million into that? The problem with these owners now is that too many of them are trying to make money with this entity. These guys didn't become billionaires by becoming owners of a team. All right? They became billionaires because they made money elsewhere. Exactly, Bravos. That's why they're the only group of owners that makes their books public, because they're a public company, the Braves. That's why you know how much they made. No owner opens up their books. You really think the Pittsburgh Pirates owner or the Marlins owner wants to open up their books? And what happens if if they open up their books one year and you see the Pittsburgh Pirates making $200 million? And it's not just about ticket sales and how good your team is, right? It's revenue sharing, luxury tax, all types of things that these owners get money from, TV deals, all that stuff. They make tons of money just based on that, even before the product on the field. Not including the Pittsburgh Pirates having their network, ad deals, advertising. They make money. Yeah, Bravos. And you know what that's going to lead to? That's going to lead to having more partners with splitting it off into stocks. That's going to be, and now they're going to be very careful with their payroll now, the Braves, for sure. And I know I heard about that, about they're going to actually make stocks, splitting it up to have people buy stocks. So that means now you got partners. So you can't, that's how they're going to make a lot more money, the Liberty Group. They're going to make money that way, so they can't piss off their investors and piss off their stockholders. That's going to be a big deal. Well, exactly, CAA. Cohen already said this. Cohen makes between $1.2 and $1.4 billion a year with his hedge fund. He already said he makes his money from that company, that business. He already said, he said it in his first interview. He's not in this to make money. This is not his number one money maker. He's in this now, not saying that he should be losing $400-500 million a year. He already said this is his hobby. This is his passion. He wants to make the fans happy. He said that. Let me find another owner that actually said that. You know, this is a guy that is $17 billion rich. Richest owner in baseball by a long shot. I think the next richest owner is like $6 billion, $5 billion. Like, it's not even close. But he makes his money. When you make $1.2 to $1.4 billion in your hedge fund, you don't care if you lose $100 or $200 million for the Mets or $300 million for the Mets, right? Half of that crap is write-offs anyway when it comes to tax purposes, because the baseball business that he has with the Mets makes nowhere near the money he makes with the hedge fund. A lot of this Mets stuff is write-offs in tax purposes. Well, evil. It's not about making. It's already happening with revenue sharing. Everybody gets the same cream in the same pot, right? Revenue sharing, when it comes to jerseys, this and that, all the teams get the same amount. Now you can't affect. Now if your team now with TV deals and revenue sharing, you don't think each team makes between $150 and $200 million just on that with TV deals and revenue sharing? I can guarantee you it's that close. MLB, what was it, a $2 billion industry last year? Profit made, revenue? Trust me, these teams got money. So if every team is pocketing at least $200 million just based on TV deals and revenue sharing, that's not included in advertising, that's not included on other ventures that they use to make money, then you bring in ticket sales, which is like fourth on the list. Like, don't think that these owners don't make money. You don't think that the Pittsburgh Pirates owner is not pocketing the money? The fans know it. Well, yeah, Bravo, but if the fans still see, if a fan's going to buy a stock, I don't care if it's a Brave stock or not. You want to make money from that stock. You're not going to make it just to say, oh, look what I got. No, you want to make money. And if your payroll gets higher, that's less revenue you guys are going to make. So that means the stock will go down. He will mute it, but it's going to take a couple of years, right? He paid off a lot of the debt that the Wilpons had with the Mets. You know, not including here, he got Citi Field. He's already doing ventures to possibly build a casino next to Citi Field, and he's already building around it. The NYCFC, he's got something involved in that too with the housing apartments and stuff like that. It's building around Citi Field, which is all going to be revenue for Steve Cohen. This is not just his baby with the Mets. He already put in a license for New York State to build a casino, to get a license to build a casino near Citi Field, where the chop shops are. So he's doing other ventures that is going to benefit the entire area, which is going to make him money. Exactly, CAA. You see what the Mets, see what he did? $500 million in revenue. He put all that money back into the team. I'm not saying every owner has to do that, but even if every team in baseball with TV deal and revenue sharing got $200 million, why can't every team put $100 million back into the team on the field and they can still pocket $100 million? You know why? Because these owners are greedy, most of them. And I don't feel bad. Look, the Padres aren't a big market, but their owners got deep pockets and he's willing to spend it. Well, Jason, it really depends with the tax write-off, because it depends on if you make more money from your baseball business or your other business. Because there's a lot of owners that once they board a team, they're not exactly like the main CEO of their other business anymore, right? They usually give that to somebody else so they can, get away and use, they can have more say in the baseball side of things in that business. So again, we all know Cohen makes a lot more money. I mean, he makes what, 4 times more in his hedge fund than he does with Citi Field. Like he made, somebody just put it, $1.5 billion in his hedge fund. He made $500 million in revenue this year. He made $1 billion more. Like it's not even close. So yeah, he can write off a lot of the money as a write-off on taxes. Again, I'm not an accountant, but there is some truth to the write-offs. Again, not saying he doesn't pay taxes. I mean, most rich people don't anyway, especially these high-profile people. Like they always find a way to write stuff off. You think they do these charity events for the good of their heart? No, they're write-offs. All these blood drives, all these food drives, all these charities. Yeah, it looks nice on paper, but don't think for a second that these are not write-offs as well. Well, Evil, yeah, they make most money every year because they are the Yankees. The brand is huge. Yet, they still put less from their profits into the team than they have in the past. So, what does that tell you? Hal's pocketing the money. He is not putting more money into the team than he's pocketing. Again, it's the owner's right. Nobody's telling them not to do that. But they can't get mad when owners spend money because you're a hypocrite, because you have the money to spend. You just don't want to. All right, I'm just looking at the comments. Yes, yeah, I'm telling you right now, that casino, look, it's a moneymaker. Casino's a moneymaker, right? You don't walk in the casino, like the casinos don't stay open if people win all the time, right? They make money. Bravo's correct. 100%. Because Julio, the Reynolds is making around, what is it, $11 million this year. If the Pirates, $11 million is like $100 million contract to them, or at least to their owner. So that's the whole point when it comes to that. The Pirates are still looking to shed payroll, and they have no payroll. You get rid of, you get 5 prospects or 4 prospects in the deal. That you can bring them up this year, and they make $750,000. 4 players of $750,000 is what, $3 million? It's $8 million less than Brian Reynolds. That's why they're doing it. But Correa is not a big stolen base guy. He's not. He can, but that's not the big part of his game. The big part of his game is his average, his run producing, and he hits 20 plus home runs a year. I agree, Juan. That's why I never get on the Yankees, the Dodgers, the Padres. Listen, when the Wilpons owned the team, I was begging for the Mets to spend money like these other teams were. It's embarrassing. You're in the number 1 market in the world. And you can't have a payroll over $150 million. There was years when Mets payroll was 120, 130. I occasionally got to 150. Like the one time the Mets spent was Delgado, Beltran, and prior to that with the Jeremy Burnitz, Mo Vaughn, Roberto Alomar, which was a complete disaster. That was the only times when they spent. But a lot of that money was when they were getting the investments from that Madoff stuff, from the Ponzi scheme. Remember, the Mets weren't using their own money to spend on the baseball team. They were getting a lot of kickbacks from the Madoff Ponzi scheme. That's what they were using the money on to basically fund their baseball team. And then all of a sudden, when the Madoff and that money dried up from the Madoff thing, They weren't taking money out of their own pockets to put into the team. That's why we had those years when when our big signings were Dylan Betances and Jed Lowry. Like that's not a coincidence. Yeah, exactly. Thank you, Grant. He is the 10th richest owner in baseball. He's got a ton of money. And listen, it's not like he can't draw fans. This is not Miami. Yeah, even Miami probably makes between $150 and $200 million profit a year, just based on TV and revenue sharing. And even ticket sales, they make a decent amount. Not a lot, but they make enough. Like, Pittsburgh has loyal fans. Look at the Penguins. Look at the Steelers. If the Pirates put up even a 500 team, you don't think they're going to draw fans? Of course they are. They're loyal fans. But because the owner is not putting any money into this team and always trying to shed payroll and get rid of any star that they have, you don't think O'Neal Cruz and Cabrian Hayes is not going to be out the door in about 3 to 4 years when their arbitrations get high and they get closer to free agency? You know damn well they're going to get traded. That's a problem. Why do you think Pittsburgh fans are like, why am I going to root for this guy when we know they're either going to be traded or they're going to become free agents because our owner's not going to spend? It sucks. Absolutely sucks for those type of fans. And you know what? Met fans were that when the Wilpons were there. They barely spent money. And when they did, the years after that, it was like, you can't do it. Like they couldn't go out of their own pockets. It was okay when you were taking everybody else's money and putting it into the team. But as soon as it started to affect their pockets, they stopped spending. Why do you think they brought in Sandy Alderson? You think they brought in Sandy Alderson because he's a smart baseball guy? No, because Sandy Alderson was a part of the money ball with the Oakland A's and knows how to work a payroll and basically manipulate the payroll, manipulate the media, manipulate the fans and saying, oh, don't worry, we still got a good team. You know, spending a little bit and saying, oh, look, Michael Wacha. You know what I'm saying? Like Jed Lowry, Dylan Betances. You know, guys, it's not that hard to figure out the whole point of why. Remember, it wasn't the Wilpons bringing in Sandy Alderson. After the Madoff thing happened, MLB bailed out the Mets to pay back their baseball operations. They didn't have the money to do that. And MLB told the Wilpons to hire Sandy Alderson. So this wasn't like it was a Wilpons decision. Let's get Sandy Alderson in. He's a good baseball guy. No. Because everybody knows what Sandy Alderson is. He's a money manipulator. He's a money ball guy. And look, why do you think the Mets didn't get George Springer a couple of years ago? Why didn't they go get JT Realmuto? Because Sandy Alderson is never the guy to give big contracts. That's why. And the only reason why Lindor got the big contract after they traded for him because Cohen was involved. That's why. Well, let's hope they will. J-Star, how you doing? No word on the Correa yet. Can't be that easy, guys. Come on. Let's see what's going on in the world of Twitter. Let's see. All right. So once again, guys, don't forget to please hit on that like button. We're going to be with you for another half hour or so. Again, if nothing's going to happen, you know, like I said, when things happen, it's right after my stream. So let's hope it happens. I said that yesterday, but I didn't really think of the fact that the MLB offices were closed. The MLB offices were closed. So nothing was really happening yesterday, even though we thought it was. So let's hope that the trend continues, right? I'd rather end the stream and then come back with the breaking news that the Mets either did or didn't. Listen, I want to know, right? I want to know either it's good or bad news. Because the Mets have to pivot if things don't work out. They have to. They cannot wait. They can't prolong this anymore because Mancini's going to be off the table. And, you know, it's kind of funny how nothing has really happened in around baseball. There's a couple of free agents left that could help teams. A couple of bullpen arms. There's still some guys out there like Duval Mancini, a couple of trade opportunities. It seems like everybody is like frozen and waiting for what the Correa news is going to be. Like it seems that way. There has been no movement really at all. around Major League Baseball. Well, David, I think that's a good sign. Like everybody's just reiterating what Puma said yesterday. What Correa is not interested in restructuring his contract with the terms of financial and the years. So if that was the case and the Mets are trying to budge from that, then this deal would have been dead a long time ago. And nothing has been said besides what we've heard from Puma yesterday. And it was just retweeted and put into their own words from other reporters. So hasn't really been any news. And again, you got one of the best owners in all, best client, agents in all of agent of all of baseball in Boris, who's a shark, who will never not speak to the media or leak something to the media if it benefits his client. If there's nothing that's going wrong with this negotiation right now, Boris has nothing to leak. And I can guarantee you, Boris would have found a reporter to let it be known to everybody that this deal is not going to work out or this deal is on the verge of failing. So if you haven't heard that from Boris, then clearly there's enough improvement or enough an improvement or approval of the negotiations, and maybe they're just slowly going over the language, slowly approving of each thing, and then when everything seems legit and good for both sides, that's when things will happen. Because if this deal was dead, I think this deal would have been dead already, to be honest with you. And that's the way I feel. Again, I could be completely wrong, but if the Mets didn't want to give the 12 years $315 and Correa is not budging from that term, then wouldn't it be a dead deal already? Then the language was a non-issue then. So it just seems like that's what's getting worked out, the language. Still in Queens, Paul. Hey, Paul, what's up, baby? Where the hell are you, man? I haven't talked to you in a long time. Damn, I don't remember the last time we actually hung out was what, 2016 opening day? Holy Christ, Paul, baby, what's up? It's my boy right there. Paul, you in Florida? Damn, Paul. Oh, man, Paul. Ike Davis. Oh, my God. Remember when we went to the Matt Harvey's first game at Citi Field? It was great. That was good times. Me and Paul go back. We had a lot of interesting moments during the 2015 playoffs at the bars. That's for sure. All right. I'm just looking at the comments, guys. Don't mind me. Sorry, guys. There's a lot of comments I'm getting up to. So, Paul, you're still in Queens or you're in Florida now? Yeah, exactly, CAA. Yeah, he's paying him not to play. And also McCann as well. So yeah, guys, we're just waiting for anything. We keep on refreshing Twitter, everything that we have to do that we've been doing. And I can assure you we're all doing that right now. But, it's not happening right now. I mean, what are you supposed to do, right? There's nothing that we can actually do until it happens, right? So let's refresh again. And some people are tweeting this Cohen situation is mentally exhausting. Absolutely. You're in North Carolina now. Interesting. Where in North Carolina? My family lives down there. Yeah, Paul, I'm good, living with it. All right, I'm just checking Twitter, guys. Just give me a moment. Yeah, I don't see nothing, guys. All right. Raleigh. Okay, not too far from my family. Cool. No, Joe, I wouldn't be surprised. I think McCann put too much pressure on himself in New York, to be honest with you. I don't think he's a New York guy, to be honest with you. I don't think he can play in New York. Like, you don't have a drop-off that much where he can hit 15 home runs a year and you barely hit, 5? Mark Gooden. Isn't that the Mark Gooden, the Federalist? I don't think he's a legit one. I'm good with DeGrom leaving because I don't think he wanted to be here, Paul. So once again, guys, be with you until 1:30. We'll keep the trend going. Usually when the stream ends, something happens. And today's the day when all the offices are open. So something's going to happen. The Adam Ottavino got official today, the 1-year deal. So things are going to get official. So we're going to keep on that trend that happened with Nimmo, that happened with Quintana, that happened with Senga, even happened with Nimmo. I got off my Mets hot stove at night, and not even 20 minutes later, Nimmo signs. So let's hope it happens again, and we're ready to go. MLB rumors. All right. Are they actually saying the same thing that they have been doing? Well, David, absolutely it'd be a big letdown. Listen, there's $1 million in single ticket sales that were sold when the deal was agreed upon on Wednesday. Don't you think that's going to piss a lot of people off? Absolutely. All right, let's see. Let's look at MLB trade rumors. I've been seeing the same stuff for hours now. Every report has been just rewriting in their own words what Puma wrote. Like it's not really new news. All right, let's just see though. All right, the last thing that we saw on MLB trade rumors is 13 hours ago, and again, it's a report from Puma. It's the same stuff. Same stuff, guys. Same stuff. They just quoted Mike Puma, so it's the same stuff. Julio, if you want to become a member, all you got to do, I don't know if you're on your phone or on a laptop, but if you're on your phone, just go to the channel page where you just click on my logo. That's right under the stream. You click on it. Hold on, guys. Something happened. Hold on. Hold on, guys. And yeah, so you just click on the logo, the channel logo, and it takes you to my channel. And you can also, and it says join on the channel page, and you can just click on what membership you want. But if you guys give me a second, let me just do something really quick. I'll actually put the link in the chat. Just give me a second. Just give me 1 second, guys. All right, let me just do something really quick. Don't mind me, guys. I'm just gonna put if you want to become a member, I'm gonna put the link up. I should have put it in my description. It would have been easier for you guys. But let me just take care of that right now. I'll do it for you in a second, guys. Just give me a second. I just gotta get into my my studio and get the link. So you can keep on answering questions, asking questions in the chat, so we can just keep on going. I'll be with you right around 1:30 or so, guys. So again, let's hope that more things actually happen. All right, here we go. All right, here we go. Good. That's what we like. All righty, there we go. All right, I'm going to put it in the chat now. There it is, guys, right there. You can just click on that. That's a playlist there that will take you right to my channel. All right, here we go. I think this is the same thing, different one. All right, so this one right here, guys, is the one that, there we go. So there we go. Right there is the last one that I just put the link is actually where you can get to the membership page. All you got to do is click on it. I'm clicking on it right now on my phone, and it takes me right to the member page. It's right there. So click on that, and you're good to go. No problem, Julio. Yeah, Michael, I don't think it's going to be a short-term deal because I don't think Correa is pivoting from that. Jason, that's funny. Mr. 16, it's hard to figure that out. Again, I'll do my predictions right before the season starts. Division winners, wild card winners, and I'll go into the playoff brackets as well. Right now it's still hard. Like I said, let's be honest. Anybody can be the favorites. Like if the Mets do land Correa, like some people are going to put the Mets as the favorites, at least for winning in the division, and some might even be behind Houston to win the championship. Again, I don't like to look that far ahead. I don't think that's fair, but I mean, anybody can see any of the three teams in the NL East winning the division. Like all three teams are that good. Like there's no mistake in that. But the difference is this year compared to prior years is that the balanced schedule is new this year with the new scheduling, and you only play the teams in your division 13 times instead of 19 times. So that can be a huge swing of difference in divisions when you're not playing each other and beating each other up. The Phillies, the Mets, and the Braves, those 6 games that you would have played against each other are against other teams. You can win all 6 of those games. And that's why there's a possibility now in Major League Baseball with the balanced schedule that if you got 3 good teams in your division, it's very likely that there could be 300-win teams. It's a possibility. All right. All right, so we got Passons actually is awake. Here we go. Big spenders. Pittsburgh Pirates have signed Rich Hill, $8 million for 1 year. 43-year-old. Big spenders. I mean, come on. Like, you see what I'm saying here? This just proves the point, right? A 43-year-old pitcher in Rich Hill just got $8 million from the Pirates. Like, I just don't get it. I don't. You see how stupid that is? Well, NJ, you know what? It also can be, it can blow up in the Mets' face, right? If they decide to back out of the deal with Correa, and he goes to whoever, and he has all-star seasons and has really good years and performs in the postseason, that's a big loss for the Mets. Because there's no guarantee that they can get Rafael Devers. If they don't trade for him, there's no guarantee that you can sign him because there will be teams going after Devers. And the same thing with Ohtani. Let's not worry about next year, not this year coming up. Let's not worry about 2024 until we get into the 2024 offseason. Yeah, Dick Mountain. All right. So Jeff Passan is alive. He is awake, so that's good news. That's something happened. So again, you see deals are becoming official, right? A lot of these deals could have been agreed upon before the holidays, and because the offices were closed, nothing can become official until that paperwork gets approved by those both offices. All right, let's just look again on Twitter. Maybe we'll get lucky here. Yeah, nothing. Well, what are you going to do, right? I do think the deal is still going to get done. Well, Joel, I mean, just because you want to be on a team doesn't mean that it's actually going to work out, right? I mean, I don't think Correa if he's not going to budge from the years and the money, I mean, do you really want to be a Met? I mean, again, it's his life. It's his choice. He doesn't have to budge from that. You know, you can want to be a Met, but you also want to get paid. Yeah, but Michael, Hal just said to you that he doesn't believe spending $300 million is gonna win you a champ or doesn't guarantee you a championship. So they're already at 285. They signed Correa, they're gonna be well over $300 million. They're not doing it unless it's a short-term deal. It's probably not happening. Paul, thank you for the super chat, buddy. I appreciate it, man. Love you, man. Hopefully, sometime when I'm in North Carolina with again, where my family is, I'll hit you up and maybe we can meet up for a beer or so. Well, here's the thing. This is not up to Boris anymore. If Correa believes that he wants a long-term deal, he doesn't want to risk it and take another short-term deal with an opt-out because there's a risk of him getting hurt. There's a risk of him having a worse year. And say if he goes to the Twins, you don't think it hurt Correa that he wasn't in the postseason this year with the Twins, where he performs very well? He would have got more money probably. But again, what does it matter if he goes on the market next year? This ankle is going to be another issue, which is going to be a concern for another team, which might be a problem when it comes to money and years. But there's definitely pressure on Boris at this point because, as good as Boris is, he completely messed up with Michael Conforto. Michael Conforto had a $100 million deal on the table with the Mets. And because Boris is a guy that don't like to let his guys not go to free agency, it completely hurt Michael Conforto. He turned down $100 million just to get, a $36 million deal for 2 years with an opt-out for 1 year with the Giants? It's a lot of money lost. Now, again, Conforto can have a great year and then get his $200 million contract. After this year, he's still young enough. Yeah, but Michael, that's not the point. If that's the case, why haven't they spent over the last 3 years? Because they haven't, right? They kept on coming back with the same team. Well, Cobra, I don't know if you heard this earlier. The Dodgers issue, I don't know. I mean, you can't really predict the things because it doesn't make sense, right? The Dodgers were the best team in baseball. I mean, as good as they were, they didn't do nothing in the playoffs, right? So I don't know. Like, if the Dodgers knew what the issue was exactly, I mean, yeah, you can look at it and say they couldn't score in the NLDS against the Padres, right? They couldn't score, but they were one of the best offensive teams in baseball all year. Runs scored. So you can't predict that stuff. All you can do is put a team together you think is a championship team. Nothing can be predicted. Baseball is one of the sports that a lot of things can happen because there's a lot of moving parts. It really doesn't matter because it's so much of a crapshoot now in the playoffs. The best team always doesn't win now. This isn't the NBA. It's a lot like the NHL playoffs now. I've said that a lot. But again, Michael, it's not about they can. You know who also can spend? The Red Sox. You know who also can spend? You know why the Red Sox aren't spending? Do you know why they hired Chaim Bloom? Because Henry is more concerned about his soccer team than his baseball team. Because soccer drives in a lot more money than the baseball team. A lot of teams can spend. They don't want to. And again, I thought it was telling when Hal said he doesn't believe a $300 million payroll is a guarantee to win a championship, which is an obvious saying. They're already at 285. Why do you think they're trying to trade for Reynolds? And if that doesn't work out, their next choice is Max Kepler, because that's going to keep them under a certain amount of payroll. That's why. Yeah, Joel, I think Correa should be batting fifth. He's a run producer. The reason why he doesn't have a lot of RBIs in his career each year was because he batted either leadoff or number 2. And you're not going to be a big RBI guy when you bat in those two spots in the position. Because of the fact that I think it was 2019 with the Astros for Correa, he had 92 RBIs. You know why? Because he batted a lot. He batted third a lot. He didn't bat 1 or 2. He batted third a lot. When you're batting third, you have more opportunities with men on base. You're 1 and 2 hitters. If you're a leadoff hitter or a number 2 hitter, a lot of times you're not going to get the 8th or 9th hitter on the base paths to drive in runs. You only got one guy in front of you if you're a number 2 hitter to get on base most times that you expect to get on base more. So that one year when he batted third and batted a little deeper in the lineup, he had more opportunities to drive in runs, and he did it. That's why I think he is a run producer. He's clutch. You don't have 18 postseason home runs, and you're one of the most clutch postseason performers in the last 5 to 7 years, or at least the last 5 years, by not being a run producer. He shows up for the biggest moments. And you know what? Let's be honest. That's what the Mets lacked in that postseason in the wild card last year. It's not like it wasn't a fact. It was true. Look what happened. They couldn't score. All right. Let's see. One more time on Twitter. What do we got? Yeah. All right. Yeah, I don't see nothing yet, guys. It's crazy. Yep. So once again, guys, nothing really is going on except for the same. Everybody's coming up with their own articles now, like Pat Ragazzo, John Heyman, all these reporters. They're coming up. All they're doing is rewording what Puma put out there. With Correa is not interested in renegotiating. The Mets are still negotiating with Correa. Correa still wants to be a Met. He's still focused on being a Met. That's all you've been hearing. It's been reworded differently from other reporters. So it hasn't been really new news. And Joe brought up a good point. Everybody knows Joe in the chat. If Correa isn't interested, and we brought this up earlier, if Correa isn't interested in renegotiating the terms of the deal, the 12 years, $315, then wouldn't you think the Mets would either say, all right, well, we're only renegotiating if the terms are different? Well, clearly the Mets are not really that concerned about that. But also, if he wasn't interested in renegotiating the terms, why would he only be talking to the Mets? Right? He could do it with another team. But again, if he's not going to budge from that type of money in years, there's nobody else that's going to give that to him. So, and he knows that. And I guarantee you Boris knows that. Because the only way he's going to sign with another team is if it's a short-term opt-out after 1 year. He could do that with the Mets. For all we know, if the Mets are not going to budge and Correa is not going to budge on the terms, maybe this is, all right, listen, we'll give you $35 million for 1 year. Wouldn't he want to play for the Mets for 1 year? Have a really good year, have a really good lineup to work with, possibility of being in the playoffs, and that's where he shines? That's only going to help his cause next year, right? In the contract year with no shortstops on the market. But again, I don't think he's going to risk doing that because he's in risk of an injury. And if he has a bad year, people are going to be like, oh, it must be the ankle. And then he's going to fail the physical again. Next year, it's going to be the same problem with teams being concerned. It's not going to change. His ankle ain't going to be, completely healed and completely different, it's going to be the same thing. I think it's taken long because of the fact that there is more people, there's more entities involved in the language of the contract. Listen, the owner or the GM and the agent and the player can figure out the money. I don't think the money's the issue. I don't think it is at all. I think that when you put language into a deal that clearly the Mets are trying to do, because why would the deal be held up? If the Mets didn't care about any language in the deal would have been signed already. It would have been official. He probably would have been getting introduced today. But there's a lot of language that the Mets probably want to put in there. They have to get approval from the owner. I'm sorry, the MLB offices and the MLBPA. And there's probably multiple things that are in there that can protect the organization. Once again, guys, I said this earlier, again and again and again. Boris did this with JD Martinez and the Boston Red Sox. Now, Drew, I don't think the insurance companies are not going to not or refuse to cover them because they're going to make a ton of money just on the Mets paying them to just have that insurance still active. These insurance companies love baseball teams and love sports because of the fact that they're getting paid and a lot of times it's not used. So I don't think it's that. I just think that, premiums, I don't think money's the issue, but again, it's insurance company. You got to get approval from the insurance company. You got to get approval from the MLBPA. Everything that is written in a contract have to be approved, not just by the Mets and the player or the owner of the team or the player. Has to go to Major League Baseball, MLBPA, that the deal will not be official until those two entities approve of it because there's a CBA between those parties. All right, I'm just sorry. I thought something happened on Twitter, but nothing. But we're on day 2 on the Correa Watch, guys. I don't know. Again, it is only 1:30. Again, there is deals that have been popping up that have been official. Ones we heard of Ottavino earlier today when I first popped on the stream, and Rich Hill signed with the Pirates. So deals are becoming official. So it's clear that paperwork and everything else that needs to be sent to the offices, MLB, MLBPA, are actively working on making deals official with everybody. So, it takes time. And again, remember, they stopped talking on Sunday because of the holiday, right? They were still talking on Saturday. Everybody took a break before Christmas. Monday is an observant holiday. So even if the Mets and Boris were talking, they couldn't do anything in regards to sending any paperwork to those offices. Now, we'll see. They were probably still negotiating. Maybe they have everything ready to go, and they're just setting everything up to send them to the offices. We'll see. Again, anything could be dead. I think, and before we end the stream, and hopefully we get good news when the stream ends, right? Let's keep on that trend in the offseason. My stream ends, things happen. It's just been a trend. It's been unlucky, but it's been a trend. And I want some luck. So let's get it done. So there has been no news that has been shocking news on a bad end. So if that's the case, and all we've been hearing is we know that Correa doesn't want to budge on the terms of the deal. Why would you? Right? The Mets are clearly negotiating with Boris. If Boris is not either satisfied or happy with the ongoing negotiations, wouldn't Boris find a reporter, say, hey, listen, the deal's not looking good. We're not coming to an agreement. It's not looking like it's going to happen. He would put that out there because that benefits his client. Because it's not, and that leaks and that report or news has not been out there yet, tells me that Boris is still either there's whatever they were renegotiating is within the realm of Boris liking this situation. Again, Boris would rather have no language, but he knows no matter what deal he does, there's going to be language in the contract because it is ankle. So dealing with a team right now that is probably going to give him the most money right now, if there was any concerns that Boris had, he would clearly make sure that it would be out there. That's why the bad news is probably not out there, because Boris is a guy that has no problem leaking crap to the media, especially when it benefits his team. Yeah, Transistor, I saw you, buddy. Thank you for becoming a member, buddy. I know you were asking for a while, how do you do it? But now you got it. So there you go. So, but I appreciate it, buddy. Welcome to the family. All right, guys. So it's past 1:30. We're going to end this now. And let's hope in a couple of hours the trend continues this offseason. I end the stream. Things happen. Nimmo, Senga, Quintana, Verlander happened before I even came on last time. And let's hope it keeps on that trend and it works into the Mets' favor. Let's hope that happens. Again, I don't think anybody will be mad if the deal is the same. As long as it gets worked out and the Mets get Correa, that is the guy they needed in this lineup. We will see what happens, guys. Hopefully it happens sooner rather than later, so we don't have to keep on refreshing Twitter. We don't have to mentally be drained about this, and we'll be ready to go. And now we can talk about what else the Mets need, specifically in the bullpen and maybe another fourth outfielder. With that said, everybody have a good day. Hopefully I see you again with some breaking news. Let's hope. If not, I will see you again tomorrow, maybe. I will be going back to work tonight, so back to reality, unfortunately. So with that said, everybody have a good day. Let's hope for the best. Let's go Mets. I'll see you next time, guys. Hopefully soon with some breaking news. Have a good day, guys.
To make the dream work. Come on! Let's go! You'll find a Mets fan. Let's go. This is a Mets year. For all your Mets here, let's go.